Hello, welcome to the last Draw Tip Tuesday video of the year. My name is Koosje Koenen and I love drawing. Drawing makes me happy and I think I can assume that it makes you happy too because you're watching this. And if you're new to this channel, welcome. This is where I hope to nudge you into a more regular drawing practice. And life is better when you draw it. We all know it. And that's why I wrote a book with that title. So if you need some inspiration for the new year, maybe my book would be a good recommendation. Today, let's celebrate the last day of the year by going on a coffee date. I love going to a cafe and order a coffee, and while I sip it, I draw my surroundings. Sometimes it's just the cup of coffee on the table, sometimes it's the interior, sometimes it's the people, and sometimes it's all of the above. And so today I went to a cafe and I took photos of the drawing that I did every 2 minutes so that you can follow the process. My sketchbook is a Hahnemühle nostalgie sketchbook, size A5, and I'm starting with my watercolors. I saw those mint colored cups on top of the espresso machine, which I really loved. And at the right hand side in the cafe, there was a lady sitting with a blue sweater, completely different color, but I just made up that the sweater was the same color as the cups because that gives me a nice color repetition and two nice blobs to start with. I also painted a little bit of green leaves and I added a line for the people that were sitting on the right hand side. They left by the time I filmed the cafe, but just believe me, they were sitting there. And I'm using my Sailor fountain pen with calligraphy nib, having fun adding these people in my drawing. And I started with them in line because they were more likely to leave than the cups on the espresso machine on the bar. So once I had the people in, I started to fan out to the left with my drawing. And I'm not outlining every single cup that I see. It's just a suggestion to indicate that there are cups. And the viewer will understand what's going on. So you don't always have to draw every single detail that you see. You can indicate things. You can be a minimalist, adding a little bit of shading and then also some details of the shelves behind the bar. And the barista was in and out of my view, of course, all the time near that espresso machine. So I just had to draw her. And just so you know, there's no likeness whatsoever for any of these people in this drawing. And it doesn't matter. It is the vibe that I'm trying to capture, not any likeness. I'm not a portrait artist. I'm just drawing my surroundings. I think I missed a few minutes before I took this picture. But anyway, you can see that I added some more background details, not too many. And I wish I could show you the in-between because I added gray watercolor pencil to create a bit more depth and a little bit more focus as well. And here I have added water to the watercolor pencil. And I also added a foreground, which makes a huge difference in the feeling of where we are. Now the foreground is inviting you into the background. I also used the gray wash from the watercolor pencil to give some shading to those people on the right. There are posters on the bar, so I added some shapes on the bar to indicate that. A door in the back on the right hand side to sort of finish this vignette, and I added more dark in the background to make the barista stand out more. And I was kind of reluctant to add more color, but I went back in with the same mint color to bring in a little bit more of a punch of color and also add some lines to the sweater on the right hand side. And I decided to introduce another color, the yellow, for the sweater of the barista, and I gave her the same color hair, and I also added pink cheeks for everyone. I hope it was inspiring to see how step by step I build my drawing even without knowing where it's going or where it will end. And there's just one more thing I'd like to address because Yes, I go to a cafe and I feel completely confident doing so. But what I hear a lot from others is that they're afraid that people might see their drawing, or that people might think they're staring at them when they're drawing. These are completely legitimate thoughts. But let me say this. People usually are very busy with themselves or each other, so they don't even notice that you're drawing. And if they do notice, people will be super enthusiastic or happy that you're doing it. So usually I get the most interesting conversations because I am drawing. For example, during this drawing, a woman came up to my table while she was leaving and she said, "What is that material you're using? That's really interesting." So I explained that I was using watercolors, and she was like, "Oh, I don't know that because I always use acrylics." Well, there you go. I had just a little connection with another artist, and we learned a little bit from each other. And then later, the barista came by my table and she said, "Can I take a peek?" I was like, "Yeah, of course you can," because I was also drawing her and it was kind of obvious. And she told me that she is an artist too. She makes drawings and portraits, and we had this interesting conversation and we learned each other's names, and it was just really fun. I made a friend. So yes, it might feel a little bit awkward, in the first place, the first few times. Years ago, I was afraid to go on location as well. But then a friend of mine suggested to go together, so it felt safe. And it really, really did. And that was the first time I did urban sketching. I sketched a rooftop. It wasn't anything interesting, but we did it. So you just need to take that first step and experience that it's not as scary as it might be in your head. And if it's because you feel like you cannot draw people, well, then check out my online workshops on drawing people. They're coming up in the new year, January and February. So maybe you can celebrate the last day of the year by treating yourself and going for a coffee somewhere or another drink. And if that's not available for you, maybe you can treat yourself in a different way. Make a hot cocoa or some other favorite drink, and maybe you can find a photo online of a cozy cafe or something like that. And just try and be in that vibe. And of course, there's always so much to draw in your own home. So just keep it simple. Everything is interesting when you draw it. Treat yourself to some time with your sketchbook. I wish you a very happy new year. I'll see you next week. Bye.